Joining me right now is the Chairman of the Board of Management at Volkswagen Group, Matthias Muller. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time.
Hello.
We are on the sidelines of the Geneva Motor Show, so I'm going to jump straight into it and first ask you, what's the big message Volkswagen brings as a group to Geneva?
Volkswagen is working for the future of mobility. We want to be the leading company offering alternative mobility. This means we're not only developing car concepts, but in future we'll also work with autonomous driving concepts, digitalization and interconnected vehicles, autonomous driving. I've already mentioned that, modern drivetrain concepts and services, enabling citizens to use this individual transportation in an environmentally friendly manner.
When you look at markets across the world, even markets like ours, India, when you talk about connected cars, when you talk about autonomous cars, it seems very, very distant. But electric cars, connectivity, these topics are more sort of immediate and present. How do you address that when it comes to markets outside of Europe, markets like India?
You know that we feel the Indian market is of paramount importance. We are investing together with Skoda to have cars that customers can really use and feel they're very useful. And cities like Mumbai that have choked traffic should be one of the markets which such mobility concepts can be tested as prototypes. This naturally does not mean that the problems in Mumbai or other conurbations in India can be solved overnight. We're talking about concepts that will evolve over the next decade, maybe in beyond 2020 or 30 even, but we are confident by working together and making a joint effort, which means that politicians and in respective countries cooperate with us, and we can find a constructive
solution. As you invest big in electric mobility, and not just yourself, but we're seeing most of the industry doing the same, what are your thoughts on investing also on this other side on diesel? Do you consider that to still be a priority of any sort, especially again for certain markets?
Well, even today, EU6 diesels are clean and part of the solution and not part of the problem. That, unfortunately, in the public discussion is discussed in a different manner. We're investing in the next generation of internal combustion engines, both petrol and diesel engines. We're investing a lot and working towards, over the next 10 to 15 years, that there'll be a coexistence between internal combustion engines and electric drive cars, meeting the needs of the customers worldwide and offering solutions.
The reason I ask that is because we're also hearing about a lot of cities, a lot of governments now considering at least to sort of take a step back on the diesel side, not just in Germany but around the world. Your views on that?
Well, I don't feel driving bans are the right solution. It's a step back. It's taking the decision away from citizens who are supposed to decide how to get from A to B. I believe there must be more intelligent solutions if everyone involved in this turnaround in transportations get together, all the stakeholders, to develop solutions together, not just for Germany, as you say rightly, but for the whole world.
We're talking about all of these different aspects of the automobile or where it's going, the evolution of the automobile. But if you were to look at it from a more immediate sense, would you say that really looking at some sort of a breakthrough or some sort of technology that could make electric mobility more efficient, even more accessible, is that going to be the one big focus area, you think?
As I've pointed out, there is no one panacea or silver bullet that is going to fix everything. It's about managing the transition from the old to the new world. We're looking into the question, for instance, of three-dimensional mobility being an option in the future. We have to look far ahead sometimes, but also look at the short-notice, urgent problems. It's an interesting time, and we're part of it.
Pleasure, sir, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Always dancing with the belle of the ball kind of comes naturally to this gentleman, Ian Callum. Always great to see you.
Good morning.
And you know why I'm saying that, of course, because You know, you always have one of the most discussed cars at any motor show. It's the I-Pace this time around.
Yeah.
You're used to that feeling now.
Yeah, we like to disrupt things a little bit. You know what we're like at Jaguar. We like a bit of fun, but we like to just sort of push the boat out a little bit and just see what the reaction is. But we embarked on this car maybe three or 4 years ago, and the design team was up for it. You know, they could see the potential in it. I'm glad we've done it now. It's going to be quite revolutionary, actually.
For the size of vehicle and its attributes, never mind the electric attribute, I mean everything else, are you 110% happy with the way it looks? Or do you find the fact that it's electric holds you back somewhere?
No, the electric vehicle gives an opportunity to design something quite different.
Yeah.
And we designed it from the ground up. You know, we didn't have the constraints, we weren't incumbent with engines and gearboxes. A very different ball game. And it just gave us the opportunity to shape it the way it should be shaped and could be shaped. So it hasn't got a long bonnet in it, it's got a short bonnet. And the cabin is given up to occupants, more than it would have been. And so it's really a car of integrity, actually. And then on top of that, we had to try and wrap a really cool style around it. So we've kind of gone for the cab forward, mid-engine sports car look, you know, where you forcibly kind of put the weight towards the front of the car, visual weight towards the front of the car. So it has a dynamic about it. I love it. I really do. I love it.
And what does it do for you in terms of opening things up for the future? I mean, you're going to obviously have more products which are going to be electrified sooner than we think. So yeah, what are the learnings from this for you?
Well, I think the first thing on any car like this, it gives you the confidence to know you can do it. And I think this car is going to be compared with some of the other few electric cars in the market of this type. And I think we'll come out very strong in that respect. Because, you know, apart from the electric, the underpinnings of this car are pure Jaguar. And it's a real driver's car, which is great. And that confidence and that learning will lead us on to other electric cars. And I think it's an opportunity for Jaguar to embrace the whole electric ethos for the future, because it is inevitable. You know, and eventually this whole building will be full of electric cars. I'm quite sure of that. But for a moment in time, we can take that as our space. And I think that's a great advantage Jaguar is going to have and is going to take. And yes, we're working on future electric cars. I can't talk about them. But it's just very, very exciting. But we'll have a few internal combustion engines around for a while, especially in the likes of the F-Type.
Yeah. I'm relieved to hear you say that, of course. But, you know, having said that, the fact that this is the first one off the block, for the group, in fact, what do you think that indicates to us? Because obviously it's not just Jaguar that's taking the learnings out of this project. It's going to be Tata, it's going to be Land Rover as well.
Well, let me just get to the brand first. You know, for Jaguar to do this is absolutely right. Jaguar historically was about innovation. A lot of people forget this. If you think of Jaguar's historic racing days and innovation days in the 50s and 60s, it's always a game changer. The racing cars, the E-Type, the D-Types, the XJ, the first XJ was a game changer. It redefined luxury cars. And so we're getting back to our mojo again of what we're about, this sense of innovation. And so Jaguar's the right brand to lead that amongst the Tata Group. And of course the other brands will learn off this, and perhaps we'll see, you know, variations on this platform or other platforms based on the technology that we've learned. But Jaguar will lead this, there's no doubt about it.
That's exciting actually, and you're right. I think from my perspective as well, I almost appreciate that fact. One last thing, happy with the reception to the e-Pace. I mean, over here it's getting a little bit forgotten because the I-Pace is taking center stage, but it's still the new car. It's still getting out
you know,
there.
the timing's everything, as I say, and perhaps they're a little bit too close together. But overall, the e-Pace has been hugely well received, and it's appealing to customers that have never even considered Jaguar before. Not just because of the price point, because of the size of the car. I'm a great lover of smaller cars. I think cars need to be usable, especially in urban areas. And this e-Pace is one that fits that perfectly. And if you're not bold enough, or you know, to go for the electric car, I think the e-Pace is a great alternative. I'm actually getting one myself, so I like the car that much.
We've spoken about this before, but now seeing 3 and not 1, the Pace family, still room to grow. Because we spoke about it and you had said, look, the potential's to go both ways.
Yeah, there's still, we spoke about it, we said potential to go down, which we've done with the e-Pace. There's potential to go sideways with the I-Pace, of course. And there's potential to go up, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But there's no doubt about it. You know, the Pace family and SUVs or crossovers in particular, it's a growing sector, and we have to take advantage of it. You know, that's where our volume is now. So it would be crazy not to look at alternatives.
Yep. I know, and I'm going to keep us busy, which is always good. Thank you, and congrats.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Always great.
Thank you.
There is no doubt that we're talking about e-mobility more and more, and it's not just at the motor shows. It's starting to get more real. It's starting to get onto the streets. Rupert Stradler from Audi certainly echoes the same sentiment, is joining me now. Always a pleasure. And thank you. I know it's a busy night for you, so I appreciate your time. E-mobility, as I said, you know, it's not just a buzzword anymore. It's not just about good business sense. It's starting to become real world. Consumers are going to be able to touch and feel this very quickly. That back there is your representation of that.
Yeah, that's true. We started some years ago with the e-Tron philosophy, and I said when we are able, by technique, to provide a customer a solution with a range of, let's say, at around 500 kilometers, then we are in the business. And okay, our engineers did a good job, and we have shown, I think 2 years ago in Frankfurt, the first concept car. And now the baby is getting mature, and during summer this year, in August, we will show up with the Audi e-Tron, and the car will be produced in Brussels. So we are now preparing the factory, and I'm quite happy, I have to say, yeah, because it is the first runner. And I always, as a kid, I was remembered to the Audi Ur-Quattro, and this is the next modern Audi Ur-Quattro, which is totally electrified.
It bears that flag well. I remember asking you this, well, I guess at Frankfurt, because, you know, when you talked about e-Tron the very first time, everybody assumed you were trying to go the sports car way. But now we are seeing the coupe, we're seeing the SUV design language. It becomes more practical and therefore more real as well. Was it always going to be the smarter way to go with this body shape?
Yeah, you know, some years ago we started with the idea of the R8 e-Tron. And of course we developed some prototypes, and it was for us, let's say, the incubator, the acceleration machine, that core competencies is growing up in Audi. And of course, making some market analysis, it was for me very clear that the SUV is the segment which is growing. And 3 or 4 years ago, when I said we will go for the SUV, everybody said, are you crazy? Yeah. Because physically it's not the best way. And I said, don't ask us, ask the customer. And finally, when we see what's happening in China, when we see what's happening in India, or all around the world, the SUV trend is right, and I think this is a very sexy car.
Oh, it looks very nice. I can't wait to see it without the cladding, of course, but you're going to make us wait just a little longer, I know. Possibly the next summit, I don't know. I'm going to throw that.
Yes, in August.
yeah, so that sounds like a great thing to look forward to. But I have to ask you this, that, you know, you talk about the range, 500, 600 kilometers. Now, you know, we've had some time to digest all of this. We've had some time to also understand how the technology is going to work, what the, let's say, future is looking like is more tangible. How worried are you then about infrastructure, developing markets, catching up with all of that?
Honestly, in the infrastructure issue, it was my biggest worry. But when we have a look on the United States, what's happening there with, let's say, the Volkswagen Group project Electrify America, or what is happening now, let's say, here in Europe, the infrastructure development is running very, very fast. And of course, our intention was always to get a high power charging solution, because we don't want to make the customer waiting 5 hours or 6 hours. So we are now at a quality of charging, let's say 30 minutes, 40 minutes, which is good for a coffee break, for whatever. And it's coming very close to the customer habits. And knowing that the premium customer is always a little bit different, so 90% of our customers are charging at home during night, so they don't have any hassle. And I feel quite comfortable, yeah.
All right, last question. How excited are you about the new A6?
I would say, honestly, this is the most beautiful A6 we ever designed and we ever developed. It is, from the proportion, amazing. Big wheels, nice body, and if you look to the interior, I would say it is the most progressive interior we ever had. Of course, time is running, and hopefully in the next few years we will also see the next exciting story, but I'm really happy with the A6.
Can't wait to drive it. And that, thank you.
You're welcome.
Always good to see you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.